Welcome back to Rick's Garage. Today I'm going to be installing an Inferno Cab Heater into our Polaris RZR. Should be fun. My first step is to remove all of the things that are going to be in the way. For example, the windshield, the dash components, the dashboard, all of the switches need to be removed so that we can have access to the chassis to begin the work. HK131, and I also bought the 2 extra ducts for the heater, which came with a smaller hose and a couple of extra ducts. So this is basically the kit. Got the panel for the back of the glove box, the heater blower assembly, some fasteners, wiring kit, zip ties, and so forth. So looking forward to putting this in. Great instructions they have with photographs step by step. So we'll follow those and get this installed. I'm working to remove all of the dash components, and I've done that here on this RZR XP4 1000. I'm working on putting in an Inferno heater. You lose half the back of the glove box, but we really don't use that anyway. I'd rather keep the front box and all the other things on the dash intact, so we decided that model. To begin, I just had to remove all of the plastic wear, and now we're going to get into the actual installation. For the instructions, I've installed the perimeter screws to hold the back panel on the back of the glove box. The next step in the instructions is to cut the duct to the length shown here, 36 inches, 2 at 27 and 1 at 18. So I set up a broken tape measure, just enough inches to accomplish that, and we'll lay this out and get them cut. Now that I have the hoses cut, it's recommended that you zip tie each of the hoses on to the heater blower before installing the heater blower. That's exactly what we're going to do. All right, looks like something out of the Matrix. Very cool, ready to install the blower box. Just completed the install of the blower motor. Drill 2 holes through the firewall, mount those, and that one fastener. Next, now I'm going to drill the 2 holes for grommets for the heater hose, and I used a level. It'll come straight across with the hose, drill the hole, the bottom edge of the tape that's on center. That'll extend into the wheel well here. We'll get that done. I ended up taking the flared wheel wells off just to give me better access to drill the holes. I've got to put 1 3/8 holes in for the grommet, so I drew some pilot hose level on the other side, and we'll get that drilled out. I think I'm going to test drill a hole in cardboard to make sure that I don't drill too big on that grommet size. Wish me luck. 1 hole down, 1 to go. All right. Well, that went really easy. It's nice drilling through plastic instead of steel all the time. Get those 2 up there, directly across. Time to start running some hose. All right. All right, well, it's 1 o'clock here in northern Michigan. Time for the Lions.
They're getting the ball out in a hurry, and this is grabbed with a good catch.
It's Jacksonville.
First down.
Here we go. Go Lions. Now we're at a point where we're up in the front bay by the radiator. We're going to cut this hose, and then we're going to put a Y fitting in and run that Y fitting up through the compartment and into this first hole, and you can see we're going to put it to probably the forwardmost cooler line there going into that coil. So I've got the piece cut out, 4-foot piece, gets us there, and then we will start routing one to the back after we're done doing that. One thing I wanted to mention, I did purchase these hose clamps for clamping the radiator hose, or really any hose. They're made out of plastic. I bought them with the Inferno heater just to crimp off the radiator hose and the cooler line hose while I do the splicing of this hose. So try to minimize how much fluid we put on the ground is really the goal. So thought I'd share that with you. I think it was $20 for 2 of them, but it'll definitely carry past this project into other projects. That is, if I don't lose the darn things. What I decided to do here is to route and clamp off the destination. So I'll work my way backward and then tie it into the radiator hose. Here are the clamps in action. Crimping off the radiator hoses. Got a pan down there to collect a little bit that'll be in here, but hope to make this splice and get it unclamped and back in business. Then we'll hook that radiator hose up to the Y fitting and then off to the heater core. The hose clamps work perfect. I have the Y installed. Now I'll hook up the heater hose to the core, and then we'll begin moving our way to the back. I have finally completed the installation of the heater core, the hoses. I've routed the hoses according to the instructions, have them back to the heater core. We're ready to go. I've tested the electrical on the fan, and that works. I mounted my switch on the far right here on the dash, and it's wired into the accessory block on the firewall. And we've got all the ducts ready to route. I still have to drill holes to mount those ducts. But we're good to go. I've tested it, and like I said, the blower works, so we're good to go there. I have the bypass valve installed in the passenger rear. This intercepts the cooler line for the oil, and then that runs underneath. I had to drop the skid plate, front and rear, to route this 5/8 heater hose all the way up front and tie that back into the heater core. So that's all complete, and we're ready to get things started. And I have to fill up the radiator fluid, and then we'll be ready to start it up and warm it up. I have the ductwork for the feet put in place, got the louvers in, the little plastic plate, little flimsy at the bottom. I'm going to see if I can stabilize that, but I've got the rivets in place. Just need to secure those. And then I'll work on the upper ducts for the defrost. I forgot to mention that the instructions said to position the louvers for the defrost ducts as close as you can to the windshield. I forgot to take a picture of that, but here is the general area to where those louvers go. And I was able to drill those out while the panel was off the vehicle. And of course, I forgot to take a picture of it at the end of the project, but you get an idea where those defrost louvers go. Now we're at the exciting part of the project, where we get to run some coolant through the system so that the heater core can function properly to produce the heat for the cab. And a couple things you need to do is, one, remove the radiator cap, which was difficult to do with the fenders on, but we were able to get that done. And located on the top of the engine is a little bleeder fastener that you need to disconnect and of course fill up the antifreeze through the radiator until the fluid streams out of this particular hole. I put a wrench on it and you can actually see what we had to do. I had to loosen that up and put a pan underneath and allow the coolant to flow out pretty well to make sure that the system was full. Once I was confident that I had enough coolant in the engine block and through the hoses by filling it up at the radiator, I was able to turn the fastener closed on that air bleed and seal the system off. I then cycled the razor up to temperature and let it cool off a few times, and then added a little bit of ethylene glycol or radiator coolant back into the system to make sure that I had enough. At this point, I'm really confident. I've removed most of the air bubbles and pockets, and we're ready to cycle the machine. With everything installed and the heater functioning properly, I was able to then put all of the body panels back on, heat shield on, windshield, and get everything ready to go out on the trail, which is exactly what we plan to do next. It doesn't matter how cold it is in Michigan. We have our side curtains and our Inferno Cab Heater. We're ready to go. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching this video. I know I skipped a few steps, but in the end, this is just to show you that if you want, you can install this with basic tools. Just follow the instructions, contact the manufacturer if needed, but have a great time doing it and enjoy the trails. Thanks, everybody.